Hello everybody, James here, Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 143. I'm in a good mood, Dutch is in fine fettle, cigar dangling from his lips, as
what
always.
was that word?
Fine
Fettle.
fettle. F-E-T-T-L-E.
It's been a long time since I've heard that, but you won't find it in this book, but it's going to be in the next one, which, by the way, I'm in the process of writing. And let me tell you, this is the writer's story. I had this story that I'd been working on, I don't know, for years. It was 50 pages long, just the story, because I intertwined, a few more stories in it, and somehow hit delete, and it disappeared. Mm-hmm. I guess I don't think I had it anywhere else, and I didn't, but I had sent it to a friend. And I called them up, all distraught. And they said, "Oh, I got that story." And that's the only thing to save me. They sent it back, and I'm trying to put it back together again. Anyway, but it's a great story. So I need a good title for the third book. You got anything for it?
I think you've asked this before, and I didn't have any
and
suggestions
I still don't have a title.
Well, if anybody wants to put or submit a title for the third book. I mean, are you writing a sentence a week? This book's been in process for like 2 years now. I actually want to read it.
Well, you have to promote it first. Yeah, it's see, reading a book from me is like talking to me. That's what it reads like. It reads like we're riding down around the road in a car, and we're just talking. And I tell a story, and then you ask some questions, and I answer those questions, and we just go from there. It's not hard to read. It's very easy to read, and some pretty good stories in there.
We'll look forward to that book coming out 2020. Are we assuming the 2020s?
Oh yeah, it'll be out.
Good. Well, you need to do it like a couple of months before Christmas.
I'm shooting for Christmas.
Good. Of which year? This year?
If I could, I'd reach out and snatch you by your neck right now. But you're going to have something to aim for. So I'm aiming for Christmas. That'd be a good time.
Aiming for Christmas, so look out for the Dirty Dutch book that we don't have a title for, Volume 3. And one more thing that we plug every single week is the email to contact this show. It's questionsfordutch@gmail.com. That's how you submit your questions for the Ask Dutch Anything episode every single Sunday. And so many dozens of you do every single week, and we appreciate that. Right, Dutch, we have got so much news, it hurts. It's been, apart from SummerSlam, it's very good. It looks like you could hang a towel off it, Dutch. 2 of them, in fact.
Hang a towel off of it. Where did you hear that saying?
No, I just made it up.
No, you didn't. I've heard that 1,000 times.
Yeah, not about mustaches, though.
Well, no, that is true. That is true. Okay, continue. What were you going to say?
Yeah, we've got so much news that it aches. It hurts when it comes crashing down, and it hurts inside.
Some weeks we have no news.
But we make it up.
Yeah, just make it up.
This one, I had to cut stuff out just to fit in. We're only going to talk about a couple of things from the actual SummerSlam event because there were so many things to talk about, and talk about them we shall. So the main news story out of the weekend, aside from all the matches and title changes and everything, is the return of Brock Lesnar. So, UK?
Yeah, I'm fine. You said the return of Brock Lesnar.
I know you nearly swallowed your cigar when I said it.
No, yeah, like it shocked me. It's an overreaction. Okay, so go ahead.
So, after Cody Rhodes defeated John Cena for the undisputed WWE Championship, Brock Lesnar returned, gave John Cena an F5. Brock Lesnar hasn't appeared on WWE programming since SummerSlam 2023. He was going to appear at Royal Rumble 2024, but then, like the day of or the day before, Janelle Grant's civil suit was released to the wider public, and Brock Lesnar, who was very much implicated, Not by name, but it was a former UFC and WWE heavyweight champion, so it did limit it to a field of one person. They pulled Brock Lesnar from the show.
And I remember shortly thereafter, you asked me, was Brock Lesnar through with WWE? And I remember I said, I think he is. So they fooled me, didn't they? They told me, by God.
I argued he'd come back earlier. I remember I said to you, I think he'll come back by September or October or November, whenever the Saudi Arabia show would be. And they bring him back for that. But they left it another 8 months.
How did you figure that?
I just figured that WWE wouldn't care after a few months and let the worst of it blow over.
You are exactly right. I think they care, but I think they don't care as much as I think. I cared more than what say the fans thought and what they really think. You know, time kills everything. You know, if time goes by and nothing happens, and pretty soon it's in the back of your mind, and now you got to say, oh, you remember that thing he got into with Vince? They may not even remember that now, because wrestling fans' minds, it's right now. And that's the way a lot of people's brains work, is what's going on right now. But you did predict that.
We'll be talking about Vince a little later on. He's going to be coming up a couple of times in this. But as far as Brock Lesnar goes, just to catch everybody up, if you don't know, Brock Lesnar was named, actually properly named, in an updated, revised version of the civil suit from Janelle Grant that came out after, obviously, the initial one did. And they said Brock Lesnar this, Brock Lesnar that. There was a couple of addendums and additions and all that kind of thing. So Brock Lesnar was allegedly, according to the civil suits, he was going to be offered up Janelle Grant. This sort of plays into the idea of abuse and sex trafficking and all that kind of thing. That Janelle Grant is claiming in her civil suit that Janelle was offered up to Brock Lesnar as a bargaining chip for him to have her for the night in order for him to re-sign with WWE. And the reason that was not consummated was because, once again, allegedly, as it says in the civil suit, Brock Lesnar was too intoxicated, quote unquote, and he ended up just going back to the WWE plane and never came back. So, that being said, Brock Lesnar apparently has been cleared to return by WWE, their own lawyers, their legal department, TKO's legal department, who, I like it that they investigated themselves and they found no wrongdoing, and then they let Brock Lesnar back in a few weeks ago. The Epstein list logic, I think. And
what do you mean on the Epstein list? What do you actually mean by that?
Because quite a few months ago, everyone from every political party was saying, yes, there is a list, there's all this evidence with the Epstein list, and all these names are going to get released. And then a week or so ago, I think the Trump administration looked at it, or a couple of weeks ago, looked at it and went, nope, there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever. It was all Ghislaine Grant and Ghislaine Grant. What's she called? Jeffrey Epstein and the other one. Ghislaine Maxwell. That's it. And that there actually isn't a list of 1,000+ names that visited the island, when there clearly is.
I don't know. I'm waiting for it myself.
That being said, what do you think of Brock Lesnar coming back at this point? He did get a big cheer from the audience because he's not been seen for 2 years, and it was a big surprise. But I mean, should Brock have ever come back? Is this just a terrible look for WWE?
Well, it's not a good look. Is it a terrible look? Wrestling fans are kind of very forgiving. I know you got a few that's going to say, oh, WWE want a bunch of unjust, immoral people. But wait a minute. I thought that was kind of a given, to tell you the truth. I think people in wrestling do not live by the biblical code, and they break rules all the time. They lie. They lie to the fans, everything. So it doesn't shock me, and I think that when you try to, instill upon WWE to follow certain rules, they're just not going to do it. They're not wired that way. And it was a good time for Brock to come back. And I also read that one of the reasons he did come back, now I'm reading this, I don't know how much truth is in it, is because John Cena wanted him back. You read that?
Yeah, that's already been changed up. It's already been amended, that statement, because Triple H, at the post SummerSlam interview or whatever, that wasn't a press conference, we'll get to that in a little while as well, said, oh yeah, well, John Cena wanted to pick his own opponents, etc., etc. John Cena in an earlier interview said that he has no creative input, he's just going to wrestle who WWE wants. And then on Raw last night, as we record this...
That's proving my point of having their own rules. Because John Cena denied saying this, and Triple H said he said it. And
Triple H has already changed his mind. On Raw yesterday, Michael Cole gave this really weird piece to camera, right? Who basically said, well, we were going to have an interview with Nick Khan. And it sounded like, well, is Nick Khan going to be on TV for the first time in an interview? Rather than, CNBC or whatever else. And Michael Cole said, well, I talked to Nick Khan and Triple H, and they both said, we contacted Brock Lesnar a few weeks ago, and we decided it was time for Brock Lesnar to come home. I was like, that's not what you said a day earlier when you said it was John Cena who requested Brock Lesnar. So they're just making crap up on the fly because the first explanation didn't hold water, so now they've had to do something else to just completely change it. It's not... Dutch, just because you said something beforehand, I want to ask you, is just wrestling always going to be an inherently scummy business? Is that just the point you were making?
Basically. That's what it's always been that way. Not necessarily scummy, but it does work in odd circles, working its way through the system. So-and-so said this, I didn't say that. Well, you're a liar. No, I'm not a liar. I did say it, whatever. And it's kind of always, show business is the same thing. I'm sure if you went into the NFL business, you'll run into the same thing. It's just a part of doing business. And in the wrestling business, it's accepted. It's an accepted maneuver in the part of doing business. You can't believe nothing. It's almost like watching the news media now. You cannot believe one word the news media says because they want it to go one way and another organization wants it to go another way. So you have major news competitors actually giving a different story. Maybe it's be a small point, but they could be changing it to go in another direction, however somebody else wants it to go. But anyway, that's unaccepted in the wrestling business, that you're going to have lies and mistruths and misquotes and everything else until you sign something on the line that this is what it is, and they probably won't even release that.
So obviously it's clearly, at least, according to me and probably you as well, distasteful to have Brock Lesnar return, especially considering that Janelle Grant's legal action has not been resolved, which sort of leads me to believe...
Well, let me ask you this.
Yes.
When you heard the Brock Lesnar music, what did you think?
I was surprised. That's about it. I was surprised, and then he came out, and then I was kind of like, oh my God, has there been some sort of settlement? Or I was thinking of the legal implications. I was thinking, has there been a settlement, or a WWE really confident that the Janelle Grant case is going to go to arbitration? Or it feels like something has changed behind the scenes, but Janelle Grant's lawyer has said nothing has changed behind the scenes, and they're still pursuing, to throw out the arbitration clause and go into
how much faith I put in that? You know how much faith I put in that statement? Zero. They just said it because, politically, that would probably fit. But we still don't know the story. I think they're going to make a deal with Brock Lesnar, and I think they may have already made it. I'm sure they have made something with him.
He's never fired. He was never suspended. They paid him to sit home for 2 years. He probably made $15 million. He's under contract. Home? Yeah.
Well, we know where he's going.
Where?
Well, he's not going against Vince.
Mm.
He's not doing that.
Yeah. So once again, he was never suspended. Just TKO legal just said it's best for you to stay home. We're not going to use you for a while. So they've just been biding their time till they bring you back. Do you think at just this point they think, well, it's been over 18 months. Enough time's gone by. Let's just throw him out there. Try and get our money's worth. But seriously, you do, though. I mean, as distasteful as his appearance on WWE might be, they're probably looking at the bottom line and thinking, well, we don't want to fire him because he's still one of the biggest names in wrestling, but we can't pay $15 million for nothing.
How much bad publicity did you see? Did you see about the WWE this morning?
With
the
fans,
day after, the day after,
with fans, wrestling outlets, that kind of thing. A lot on major media, very little.
Very little on what?
Very little in your big news pieces. I don't even think any of them really cared. So it's all within the wrestling bubble of journalism and fandom. And
if you're going to read any bad publicity, it would be the day after. And I haven't read any, to tell you the truth.
So, do you actually think that there's been some legal advancement in the case to bring Brock Lesnar back, or do you just think?
Well, we predicted that a long time ago. Said it will never go to trial. It'll go to arbitration. And now let me ask you this. If it does go to arbitration, who wins it?
Right, well, if it goes to arbitration, Janelle Grant apparently, or I suspect, can't then, like she would in civil court, say, well, I want $50 million. She can only go to arbitration where she argues whether she broke the NDA clause. And if arbitration feels that she didn't break the NDA, then she would still be due the $3 million that Vince McMahon promised her, or signed for and agreed to. If they find that she did break the NDA, and it does, and legally it goes to arbitration because it's found that it's still enforceable, then she could end up with nothing.
Okay, does this have a jury trial, or is
no? Arbitration's behind closed doors. There's no jury trial. This is a third party that will hear both sides and render a judgment.
But one judge makes the ruling.
Yeah, I think it's one. It might be three. I don't know, but I figure it'd be something like that. Somewhere where there'd be a majority,
And we'll never know anyway because they'll withhold that information.
They may well hold that information as well. So yeah, we may never know. And not that I'm sure if Janelle Grant lost, then we'd know. But if she won, you might say, well, you win, but now you have to enforce the NDA where you can't talk about it, and then we may never find out. Other than if her lawyer says, right, well, it's all done and dusted now and no more questions.
Yeah, it's old news, so get out of here.
Do you...
It did surprise me to see Brock Lesnar.
I wrote this down. Do you think we just live in a post-consequences world? Because I sort of think if this had happened even 15, 20 years ago, Brock would never have been back. He would have been summarily fired immediately. No wrestling... Well, maybe TNA might have done. But, pretty much no wrestling company would touch him and that would be the end of his career. But now we're in 2025, it seems. The rich and the famous and the influential can get away with pretty much anything they want. Even if they're found guilty.
Oh, yeah. I think today that's the way the world is. And they do it slowly over time. And eventually, the average person on the street, you either accept it or you don't. And if you don't accept it, what are you going to do? Nothing. There's nothing for you to do. So you either accept it or you don't like it. And I don't like that. So I'm gonna run for Congress on that very premise. That by God, I'm tired of settling for this stuff in the news. They can't make me accept it.
What's that thing? I'm tired of it, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yep. I don't know what it is, but
there's Network in it. That film.
Network.
Yeah, I can't.
I do remember the movie. I'm tired of it, and I'm not going to take it anymore. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, 1976.
But don't make me think, please. It's too early in the morning.
Was it Robert Duvall? I think that was the guy. Right, we shall move on and relate to this. WWE press conferences are done.
Great. That was embarrassing because they made a joke of it anyway. So does AEW. It's just a joke. And they don't put actual news people out there, do they?
Oh, I think WWE tried briefly once. And then they found out they were getting a load of questions that they didn't want to answer, which is kind of the opposite of the point of a press conference, really. I mean, do you remember, this goes to the Janelle Grant thing, do you remember when it was like a day before, 2 days before, it's the Royal Rumble, in fact, 2024, when Brock Lesnar was pulled, and then someone asked Triple H, so we've got to talk about the Vince McMahon allegations, and he sat there and he went, I don't really know what the allegations are, I've not read any of the civil suit from Janelle Grant, and it's like you've had 2 days. It's your father-in-law.
Well, if you don't know, if you don't know, plead ignorance. I don't know what they are, so I really can't talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, Dutch, enjoy the show. Whatever the answer was, whatever the question was, enjoy the show.
That's it.
So
get out of it.
So yeah, they were terrible. Anyway, the SummerSlam press conferences were actually cancelled last minute because people from the wrestling world and other journalists and whatnot went there with press passes and were told on the day, I guess, that the press conferences were cancelled. And then Brock Lesnar debuts Sunday evening, and then all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more obvious why Triple H and co. didn't feel like talking to people who might ask questions about Brock Lesnar.
Who made that decision?
It's got to be Triple H, hasn't it? Sure.
TKO?
Oh, God, yeah.
TKO made it. Oh, yeah. And if Triple H was supposed to be the one out there, he's glad it's canceled because he doesn't have to handle it now. And none of those questions, with those fake journalists out there, that's why I say it's embarrassing. One guy from the Greenwood Press and News or whatever just made up names, I guess, asking a question and they can't answer.
Hey, AEW were even worse. They were letting people in who had like 100 followers on Twitter just because it was a pro AEW Twitter thing. And they give them a press pass at one point. Mm-hmm. I mean, AEW were even worse as far as like not letting people in, but WWE, well, AEW do this as well. Is that they wouldn't extend a press pass to anybody who they think are a dissenter, who might ask a difficult question. And then WWE at one point were withholding press passes from certain journalists that actually would ask a difficult question. Like, I don't know if it's a John Pollock or a Brandon Thurston or something like that, who would actually quiz WWE on business or, ethical questions, whatever it might be. And then all of a sudden they were editing and it's 1984 and only certain people can talk to me and only certain people we can... What's the point? I mean, they just controlled their own narrative and they became absolutely useless. And then they started shooting angles on them. You remember when John Cena put R-Truth through a table? And everyone just sat there just going, this is very weird.
Yeah. When we're at a loss for words to describe what they did, it is pretty bizarre. It really is. And that's wrestling. I mean, you can either accept it or not, but that's the world of wrestling. Years ago, we wouldn't have even thought of something like that.
WWE also, I'm sorry, 1 second, instead of doing the press conferences, ended up doing, like they've got the pre-show and they've got that table and they've got a crowd behind them. They just did that instead, where Triple H was fielded the most unbelievable softball questions where he could tout, how great it was that Brock Lesnar was coming back from, WWE's, most loyal employees kind of thing with no pushback. All the while that the fans were chanting, "We want Karrion Kross."
Yeah,
which was also ignored.
I think Brock Lesnar coming back now is old hat. and nobody's thinking about it. And they're thinking like you, well, they must have reached some kind of a conclusion, not a conclusion for the whole case, but about Brock. They've already reached that point, and they're past it now. And that's good for the defense, really.
We'll move on. Vince McMahon is going to be filmed for a new interview on Fox this weekend. I mean, I'm assuming he's already been the interview's already been filmed, but Vince McMahon will be making his first official brand new recorded on-screen appearance for a documentary on Fox, presented by TMZ no less, on the life and death of Hulk Hogan. That's
TMZ. What is that?
No, TMZ. You know, the celebrity
TMZ.
muckraking website and whatnot. Okay, firstly, what do you expect Vince McMahon to look like on this? Because he's gone through a couple of physical changes.
Well, I hope he got rid of that stupid little mustache. Oh my God, he looked like a 1930 gangster in that little mustache he had. I don't know what to expect. I would like to watch it just to see what he looks like. And who is doing this? TMZ?
Yeah, TMZ is doing the documentary. It's going to be broadcast on Fox this weekend, I believe.
And this is about what happened with him and Janelle Grant and
No. This is Hulk Hogan. This is a... did I not say that?
Hulk Hogan. So,
yeah.
So you're not expecting the Janelle Grant problem to arise in this interview, right?
No, it's about the life and death of Hulk Hogan.
Hey, you know what I read that like is bizarre, and we're going to talk about this later. Vince had a wreck, correct?
Oh, yes, we are going to be talking about it later. Yeah. So
and just a little note here. It was on a Thursday morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And within a few minutes, that was Hulk's official notification when he died.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. It is weird. That is a lot.
Vince McMahon, he's been on a photograph on WWE television recently, plus he was spotted out and about at, I think, the Super Bowl and in a basketball game. He was actually filmed with cameras and made mention of who he was. But why now? Do you think he's just figured out by this point that maybe enough time has passed? Almost like Brock Lesnar. Do you think he's figuring enough time has passed that enough people will not be turned off by him?
Well, not necessarily Brock. It's by the people who wanted him there. They had to make the decision, not Brock. And I think Vince knows something's up. And that's why I'm saying this is good for the defense that we're seeing these people now. We're seeing Vince now. They know exactly in the circles to move to get maximum coverage and whatever. If they come down to a money figure, I don't care what the figure is. It's not going to set Vince back an inch because he's worth what, $3 trillion now or whatever it is.
He's got Scrooge McDuck money.
So if he gives her $100 million, it's not going to affect the way he lives at all.
In all seriousness, do you think Vince McMahon at some point is going to return to television? Because Brock Lesnar has. They're very, very a tiny bit trying to mention Vince or show a photo of Vince on TV. Do you think he's going to come back as a character at some point?
I think there's let me put possibility here. There's a possibility that he comes back, but the possibility of it being a success is down to about 20%, 10%. So, and I think Vince is going to take that into account. Unless it's a success, he didn't want to mess with it. Because you got to remember what he built, and you got to say that the WWE is what he built, along with some other people. But basically, he was the owner of it, the major owner, and so he took all that credit. But he gets booted out because of this. So when he comes back, he has to come back in a way that could be deemed a success, and I don't think it'll be successful. So just for that, I'm going to say no. I don't think there's any. And Vince is how old? 81 now?
He's nearly 80, yeah.
Okay. I think he's over that. I think. But I don't think we'll see him back on TV. I'll make that proposal.
He's turning 80 in 3 weeks.
Okay.
Hey, the fans cheered him, the last time he was on TV, and that was after all the accusations came out.
I think they were paid to cheer. That was a paid crowd.
Let's go to SummerSlam. Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton and Jelly Roll. So we're only going to do bits and bats of SummerSlam because there's so much to talk about throughout the rest of the week. But first off, Jelly Roll, he lost 200 pounds. I don't know in what span of time, but in a quite quick span of time to get in. I mean, he was still 300 pounds when he turned up. So he wasn't in shape, but he was far more in shape than he was, at least. He said he hadn't been 300 pounds or 299 pounds since 6th grade.
That's hard to believe. A 6th grade kid is what, 12? 13? I mean, for him to weigh 300 pounds in the 6th grade?
He was circus fat, this dude.
No kidding. And for him to... I'm sure those other kids just ripped him apart. And, 13, and when you getting ribbed every day by your classmates, it's a wonder he made it out of school with any common sense at all. And, he got to drinking, he got to doing drugs, and I'm sure that was a result of all that happening. And he finally turned his life around, and I'm watching the match, and he was a wrestling fan. He's from Nashville. In wrestling down south, I don't think it's like wrestling in any other part of the country. It's really, really strong in the South. You can actually look at the different territories. Most of your territories were down south anyway. You had Florida, the Carolinas, you had Tennessee, or 3 at one time in Tennessee, Alabama, 2 at one time in Alabama, and then you had Texas and Louisiana, but most of those territories were down south, and that's where Jelly Roll was from. So he was a huge fan, and just to see him come out, and how much weight did he lose? 200 pounds?
Yeah, he said he was working at the Performance Center, the WWE Performance Center, every single day in preparation for this.
Well, I will say this. His punches look good. But the biggest part of that, and I told you before we started recording today, was the off the top rope thing that Logan Paul does, which is not easy. Doing it to an experienced guy. Doing it to an inexperienced guy for the first time on TV. And I wonder what was going through Jelly Roll's mind when he was seeing him come off that top rope. Oh God, I'm committed now. And when he hit, I mean, it was actually very good. But what I remember most about that, and I think people will too, when they did a slow-mo of it, you saw Jelly Roll position his fat butt just to get in the right position. But it was good. I will say that. And then when he was selling outside, when they beat the crap out of him, then he made his way and he got the tag from Randy. And what was the finish of that match? They won. Right?
No. Jelly Roll was pinned by Logan Paul.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Which surprised me. It really did. But most of those guys, they would want to go over. I bet in Jelly Roll, just knowing how much respect he has for the wrestling profession, and he does, he wanted to be pinned. because he wanted to play his role and just to say that, Peter got out and said, "Oh, I won that match." They went, "Yeah, right." So it doesn't even hurt him to say he got pinned below. Which one pinned him?
I think it was Logan Paul, yeah.
That he got pinned, and that's still a mark of honor on Jelly Roll's part. So Jelly Roll, I bet in one of his concerts coming up, he's going to have Logan Paul out there trying to sing a song. That would be just that would be almost worth the price of admission just to hear Jelly Roll try to sing a country song.
Well, Logan Paul singing a country song.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I bet Logan would actually do a pretty good job of that.
Should be said that Logan Paul was great in that match. He
led the whole match, and I'm watching him. See, a lot of guys that get into wrestling, to be able to lead a match like that this is his first match. So WWE had to have a lot of faith in Logan Paul's ability to maneuver and lead basically a novice, an unknown guy in his first official match, and have it be passable. He did a great job. Logan Paul, first of all, he's a great athlete to begin with, or he couldn't do any of this stuff, especially that dive off the top turnbuckle. He stands on that thing. I don't know how he even stands on it. Do you? You know how big it is? It's about this big.
Yeah, the posts are a bit bigger these days. They're almost like a tiny platform, but it doesn't make it that much easier. I mean, it's still an amazing feat.
Yeah, it is. And he was coming from, I think he's 20 feet from his head down. I mean, feet down, take 6 feet off of it. So, but it's still, let me say this. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it in my best days. First of all, you couldn't hog tie me and set me up there. I'm not coming off that. I mean, I will work my way down. Heights scare me. But I will say it was much, much better than what I expected it to be. And, you say, well, how was it? Well, it was better than I expected it to be. I think it's better than the fans thought it would be. Because matches like that, they can go south just like this.
Hey, why do you think that they decided for Jelly Roll to start the match off? Because he was in there from the off, and he was there for quite a while as well. So why would you start off with the celebrity first? Because I would have thought conventional wisdom would be, the two non-celebrities to wrestle first, and then, you ease them in.
I wouldn't have I don't know why they would do that.
No,
because, you would think that Orton would start and give the people a little time to see him over there in the corner. Now they want to see what Jelly Roll can do. So when he makes the tag, you get a little pop there. But he started, and I don't know that's only the reasoning I can come up with. What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's just because maybe there was... I don't know. That's what I was asking you. I have no idea. Did you know... We've got to talk about a couple of things Jelly Roll did. Was one of them when he was doing, a clothesline and back over and stuff like that. I noticed that he didn't move his feet at all. It was like watching Dusty Rhodes in, 2010, where he would just stand in the middle of the ring and then the guy would, bounce off, would do all the work around. But also, as you pointed out, and we may mention on the Stevie Show yesterday, because we did an early review of the show, is that there were two separate incidents where Logan Paul was going to land on Jelly Roll. And both times, Jelly Roll's in position, and then he would just do this. He'd tense up, put his arms which obviously he's been taught to do to absorb the impact as best as possible. But then he did the same thing. He did that, and then he'd just go and adjust himself again. And I'm glad you noticed that. That was even in the highlights on WWE's official video.
When he adjusted himself on the table?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, you could tell he was
scared.
I mean, you can really, really. he had to have a lot of faith in Logan Paul. Let me say that. But how many times can you do this to have faith in somebody? I don't think he'd done it before. I think that was the first time. And I bet Logan Paul said, hey, I'm not going to hurt you. And he believed him, because if this was the first one he ever took, he did great for not leaving. If that'd been me, I said, well, got to go. I just slid off that table and slithered back up under another announcer's desk and said, oh, did he miss it? Now I can make my comeback on him. But it was better than what I thought.
Very good. CM Punk versus Gunther. We're going to be more talking about the finish of this match, or the conclusion of this match, and what happened afterwards. CM Punk, after being beaten for most of the match, quite frankly, with all the chops and everything from Gunther, he eventually gets the better of Gunther, pins him with 2 GTSs, I think it was, and wins the Raw World Heavyweight title for the first time. He's celebrating in the ring, and then Seth Rollins' music plays. Seth Rollins comes down on crutches, and then he goes back, puts the crutches away, comes back out again, and his knee is absolutely fine. He wasn't injured at all at Saturday night's main event, and it was quite the interesting topic of discussion whether he was injured or not. Some people thought he definitely was. Other people, I mean, the reports, I think John Pollock came out with it first, where he wasn't. John had said that somebody had told him on Thursday that this was the entire plan: try and make the injury look as real as humanly possible, take the loss and lose to LA Knight after, a couple of minutes complaining about his knee or whatever it was. And then he would even go to the WWE Evolution, the women's only pay-per-view, the next day on crutches. So basically he was trying to, I think the old way of saying it is, work the boys as well as work everybody, that his knee injury was legit. He even said that he went to dinner, he and his real-life wife, Becky Lynch, or Rebecca Quinn, I guess, if you're going to use a real name, with another couple, and he even told them his knee was hurt and turned up on crutches for that as well. So, did you think that the knee injury was real at the time? What did you say?
I think I said it was real because I didn't expect them. It's highly, let me put it like that. It's highly, highly un-WWE-like for them to actually work the injury outside the ring if it's not an injury. I've never heard of them doing it, tell you the truth. Now, back in the day, before, where the fans actually would follow you would follow the news. If you had a hurt leg and you were on crutches, if you weren't on crutches, when they saw you, you say, are you better? Well, you better be on crutches, because that word spreads. But this case, they took it in a different direction and actually worked it outside the ring, which is not that hard to do. It's if you just do it. But a lot of wrestlers back in the day, I had Jimmy Hart tell me one day, "Are you signing autographs?" And he said, "Yeah, baby." Yeah, yeah, baby. I said, "Why are you signing autographs, Jimmy?" He said, "Baby, I'm not working overtime." That's what he told me. So when he came out there and he dropped the crutches, I would have actually worked that a little differently. But when he dropped them, now everybody said, "Oh." But now, instead of of disliking him, they immediately liked him because they had bought into it. And now he comes out there and he shows them, "Well, I worked you people and I did a good job." And I think they admired that.
What do you think?
But that's a good angle. Because CM Punk got screwed into it. And then now we got Seth Rollins with the title. Now that angle's made.
Yeah, they needed to get rid of Gunther for a while as well. So he
had to have surgery, didn't he?
Yeah, he had to have nasal surgery of some description. So he needed to be written off TV for a couple
naval
of months.
Surgery.
Yeah.
Was that different from marine surgery?
No, just he broke a nose. He needed some nose surgery or something like that.
Oh, okay. Nasal surgery.
Yeah.
I thought you said, you know what? I thought you said
Go on.
naval.
Oh, no, we didn't have any naval commitments.
I said, what kind of surgery can you have on your navel?
Well, liposuction, maybe. I don't know. Stick the hose
Maybe.
right in the hole.
But anyway, that's a good way to segue off.
Oh, no, because we've got more. We've got more about this. I've got follow-up questions on this.
Give it to me.
Right. Working the boys. Is it ever a good idea? Because, I mean, I know in WCW they practice this quite a lot. Ended up in lawsuits a couple of these times, or people argue backstage and whatnot. And to the point it would just kind of exhaust the roster after a while, and then it'd sow seeds of distrust. At least in WCW, I guess. What do you think? But that's 2000. But in 2025, everyone's got a camera. Everyone's looking to give information to news outlets and wrestling and that kind of thing. I mean, is it...
Not me. Not me.
Not you. But do you think it's a better idea to keep up kayfabe like this in 2025 in this manner?
Well, there was no need to really get rid of it the way they did. You mean we come on here and expose it every week, but we're under the impression everybody knows anyway. Now, remember when I said, when you catch them in that zone, maybe and maybe not, then you got them. I mean, that catching them in the zone is over for this particular case, but and you're saying that, is that a good thing to get rid of it? Or?
Yeah, but also maybe to fool some of the guys in the back as well, so it doesn't get out, into the wider public, the news that it's actually not a real injury.
Well, one way you can ensure that it doesn't get out is convince them that it's real, and then he can't get out. So I don't see anything wrong with this. They had to do in this particular case. They had to do what was going to work, and they foresaw that it would be a good angle. And now this is part of the angle, that they worked the people, and all he wanted to work is Seth. All he wanted to do is work CM Punk. So when he could go in there and he has when he got the crap beat out of him all that match, all he had to do is get in there and pick the bones clean, and he did. I think to me, I really enjoyed this angle.
It's funny that Seth kind of actually looked into more people believing this than they wouldn't have done, because just before he did that backflip off the ropes and landed on his leg, and I said at the time, it looked, the way he sort of like reached for his leg and jumped up and everything, I said that looked not real. I said it looked like he was doing it on purpose, kind of thing, to convince people. But what sort of convinced me to a point, and quite a lot of other people, is the move beforehand. He did almost like a senton. He rolled forward, and then his leg looked really weird when he was trying to stand back up. So I think a lot of people convinced themselves that that's where he hurt his knee. So like that combined with him landing on his feet and then grabbing his knee sort of made it feel like it really was real. In a sense, I think Seth looked into it, because it wouldn't have looked anywhere near as convincing if he hadn't done that forward roll.
So I was reading something about this. They said now the boys in the back don't like that they got work too. Is that what they're trying to? You read anything about that?
No. Do you think anybody else is unhappy about that then?
Well, who cares?
Oh yeah.
If I was a company and said, "Hey, you either take it, or hey, you want to work here or not," it's up to you, pal.
Here's one more thing then. Do you find it weird that Seth Rollins is going this far out to protect his character and, the integrity of his character, and to make it look like this injury is real, all the while Triple H and WWE are producing a WWE UnReal show where they expose as much of the business as they do on Netflix? So they can't seem to make their mind up whether they want to be a more closed shop or they want to expose every single facet of WWE on their terms.
This is my answer to any of those questions. You can't kill this business. I know. I've tried for 50 years to kill it. And you can't do it. because the people come into it knowing that they want a good story, and who cares? If it's as long as the work rate is right and the guys put in an effort and they try to swerve you one way, people apparently love that. It's like watching a movie, a well-developed movie. And all you need to do is just a little bit of a zone of contention. And CM Punk got screwed because he didn't think. He didn't accept it because he didn't offer it. But when he came out there with the case and he dropped his, what was the crowd's reaction? This is what I didn't see live. What was the crowd's reaction when he dropped the crutches?
Oh, huge, yeah. When he came down, it was obvious that it wasn't a
and
real
then
knee
it
injury.
all
Yeah.
pops in your head. Wait a minute. We thought that was real. Now he's telling, no, he has faked that for what, 3 weeks? How long? Yeah. And all of a sudden he's not hurt. And now he catches CM Punk in a weakened condition and went in there and, like I said, he picked the bones. So if you really think about that as a whole, it took them 3 weeks to do the angle, or 2 weeks anyway, to do the angle, and the people believed he was really hurt.
Triple H responded to people complaining about it. Seth Rollins is playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers, and he comes out, goes through none of it, and takes the World Heavyweight Championship. My hat's off to Seth Rollins. That's a smart way to do business. Not thrilled about bogus medical reports, but we'll deal with that down the line. I'm wondering if that's an in-storyline thing where Seth has been giving fake medical reports to Triple H or WWE, or people leaking fake medical reports. Yeah.
They have to get a report from the doctor, and the doctor has to be approved by WWE. I'm Nick sure Riviera. Everybody, I think everybody would understand that in this era of corporate sponsorship and all that. So, but I think he could have gone by without saying that, or maybe he said it for a reason. I don't know.
We will see. Next up, and this is the last on SummerSlam we'll talk about, Cody Rhodes defeats John Cena with the Crossroads. When the entrances start on Netflix, there was 58 minutes left on the show. And I thought, how are they going to make this match last so long? And it did go 35 minutes. It was one of John Cena's... Yeah, the actual match bell to bell went over 35 minutes. It really went a long time. One of John Cena's longest, probably one of Cody Rhodes' longest matches ever as well. And would it be fair to say that this is the best John Cena's looked in nearly a decade?
He looked great. See, because this is what we say in the business. He believed in the angle. Now, he didn't mind, and he was a good heel, and I think he enjoyed it. And remember, we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Is he going to end his career a babyface or a heel? And I think we both concurred. You like that word? We both agreed that he'll end it as a babyface.
Well, what do you think of this? What do you think of the SmackDown story that Cody and John Cena did this past Friday? Because I, for all the world, looked at that and thought, well, John Cena's obviously suckering Cody in, and then there's going to be either a double switch or Cena's going to screw Cody again. No, it just turns out it was just a straight babyface turn, which is almost the. I mean, did you think that was going to happen?
That didn't surprise me. But I was still, and that's why we watch wrestling. Because I didn't know what was going to happen. You didn't know what's going to happen. The fans didn't know what's going to happen. Therefore, that's why we watch it. And I think somebody said it was one of the best John Cena performances, interview and all that included, that they can remember. And I will say that John really, I read a headline that says, Cena's interview impressed the WWE officials. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Why would he have to, wouldn't they already know what he can do? But he went, and this is what I try to keep. Well, I don't try to keep telling people. I do tell them this because John Cena didn't have the greatest of wrestling skills, correct? He only had 5-6 moves.
Yeah, a lot of the greats only have 5-6 moves.
But he had that ability to connect. He connected with that crowd. And you look at the great stars that this business has ever had, they had that ability to connect, to talk to a fan instead of a big, huge group of people. People believed on the way he talked to you that he was talking right to you. Like he was standing there and he was talking to you. And Cena has that. Dusty had that. Really, I think Cody has it. I think all the great guys, the talents that this business has ever had, they have the ability to connect to the individual fan. Now, in Cody's case, he appeals to a lot of kids. That's why his gimmick sales are way up there in the stratosphere. And Cena's too. I mean, they had great gimmick sales. I call them gimmicks, but great merchandise sales every year he was in the business. Cody's the same way. Dusty's the same way. When it finally came to a point to where you got in the corporate atmosphere of it, when WWE went national. But forget the skills. I mean, you can take the greatest worker in the world, and I'll use one, Ricochet. Ricochet in the main event, I don't care what you did to him. He couldn't draw a third of the house that they drew at SummerSlam. There's just something missing with him. Not with his work. He's flawless. He's the best. But he can't talk. And when you get somebody who can't talk, who cannot make you feel what they're feeling, even I don't care how good he is. And some people say, well, he can't really wrestle. Okay. We've had that for years ago. I'll use one that people might remember, Brad Armstrong. Mm-hmm. You remember him? Mm-hmm. Tremendous. But you put him in front of the camera and that light comes on, he goes, doom. He can't, he just cannot talk. But that Cena can, and all the great ones can. So that's their ability to get over.
Going on to the match then, how did you receive the match? Because once again, people are saying one of the best performances of John Cena's career, definitely within, the last decade. And 35 minutes in, and especially compare it to the WrestleMania 41 match. For whatever reason, that didn't seem to gel as well as this one.
Well, I think they had it timed for that. This is not like the who was the guy that Gunther beat? What was his name?
Punk.
Goldberg.
Oh, Goldberg, yeah.
I'm trying to remember these names on my own now but Cena believed in it. And that was the last thing that I thought I was going to say is when I heard the music, and I'm thinking, and 1,000 things came through my head. Oh, and I knew exactly what it was going to be. But the thought or the image of Brock Lesnar coming out on that stage, and, all the fans were thinking the same thing. Sometimes you can be in the business and think the same things as the fans. That was the first time I saw it, first time I even heard about it. But one thing that led me to believe that WWE does have a future, they took pains to not tip off that Brock Lesnar was going to be there. I heard only about 6 people knew it. And that's one way for it not to get out, because if it had gotten out before the finish that Brock Lesnar is going to show up, Brock Lesnar is going to show up. And that doesn't do anybody any good, really. It just, a person's putting it out. And he has 10 minutes of fame, and that's it. But when he did show up, I mean, it writes itself. I mean, you could take a guy sitting ringside, and all of a sudden Brock Lesnar is showing up. Now you know that him and Cena, they're going to go all the way to the end. Till Cena has to leave, and I hope the last match is not loser leave.
Be a bit obvious if it's in
What
December.
if they had loser leave?
Loser stays.
Oh yeah, the loser leave town, and hey, and he loses. Brock Lesnar loses. That would surprise a lot of people, right? Now, how they going to get out of that? So,
hey, just
and then wait a minute. Brock comes back under the mask.
There's the yellow
There
dog.
is a way to do it, but there is a way to do it. But
hey, there's one bit in the Cena Cody thing is where they're brawling on the outside and then they go under the stage. I thought then this is going to be the kind of shot that Dutch would love. So that's the kind of thing that I imagine that if, you know, in TNA or wherever if you had like the option to do that kind of thing, that you would have absolutely have suggested that kind of move
I would have.
sequence.
That was good. Did you like it?
Oh yeah. But I thought that's when he was going to be, because he had an evil face on him, and I thought, right, well, now we finally get the real John Cena, and he gives him the AA on the ramp, and then he's still a baby face at the end of it. And then Cody, I thought towards the end, he was showing heelish tendencies. You know, he had the turnbuckle, and he was hitting John Cena, was hitting with the padded bit, but hitting John Cena with the padded bit, and it's like, oh my God, am I going to, you know, have I pulled the trigger, am I a bad guy now, kind of thing. And then they didn't change. And I thought Cody was going to be the bad guy and Cena was going to be the good guy at the end of it.
Well, that's still in the works. And I think what they're doing, they're testing the waters and seeing what the crowd, that's what I call feeling the temperature of the room. Mm-hmm. So they felt it there. And I'm sure they're gonna trust Cody's his feelings on this, because he's out there, he's feeling the crowd, and he'll know more than just a rider in the back what it feels like, and he'll come back and tell him that, yeah, I think what we had in mind is going to work. Because he knows basically loosely what they're going to do. But if you shoot it too soon, it's lost. I'd rather shoot it too late than shoot it too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Because shooting it late, you can recover. Shooting it too soon, you're kind of screwed.
Let's move on from SummerSlam. And I didn't even put this in the format, but then you said WWE UnReal, you said you watched some of it, and including the first episode, and I said, did you see the bit with Abyss, Chris Park, agenting a match with Bruce Pritchard looming over him the entire time? And you said, yes, you did. And I'm so happy you did, because that was sort of like the standout bit of that show for me. Right. Talk about, I guess, there's a couple of things to talk about. Three things to say. One, Chris Park, or Abyss. 2, Bruce Pritchard, and how terrified people are of him in WWE. And 3, a third thing that I forgot. But let's talk, and how hard it is to be an agent as well. So let's talk about Chris Park, Abyss, and the difficulty being an agent, especially for someone like him who is a perfectionist, you said, before we started.
Yeah, I met him. I'll tell a little story about him. I met him on it was an independent show in Illinois, I think. And I was going to Puerto Rico, and I needed a big heel who could kind of work, and he was still really green then. And I talked to him, hey, you want to come? I'm going to Puerto Rico. I'd like to book you, blah, blah, blah. He said, no, I'm going to TNA. He said, okay. He said, they're going to use me really good. I said, okay, good. Well, when you get done, call me. He said, okay. So the week I told him when I was going, and the week I went down there was the next week. I got a call from Abyss in 2 weeks. He said, "Hey man, remember me?" I said, "Yeah, Chris Park." That's when he was Chris Park. I said, "Yeah, I'd like to come to Puerto Rico." I said, "Wait a minute. You just told me you were going down there and they were going to use you good." He said, "Well, yeah, I thought so too." But he says, "I wasn't even booked on the second show." I said, "Oh, well, I hate to hear that." And he went, "Yeah, well, you got room for me?" And I swear to God, I shouldn't have done this, but I says, "Damn, I wish you'd have called me 30 minutes earlier." "Why? What, man? What?" I says, "Man, I just booked a guy for that spot." "Oh no, man! Can you cancel him?" I said, "Well, no, not now. I can't call him up. Can I? Just booked him." He said, "Oh man," almost like on the verge of tears. I said, "Well, look, listen. I wanted to give him a little hope. And I'm kidding him anyway. I wanted to book him, but I says, call me next week, and I'll let you know." Well, not only did he call me next week, he called me the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. And finally, I let it go. Actually, the humor had left it about 2 days earlier. I just didn't give up that soon. And I said, "Okay, listen, I'm going to bring you in." "Oh, really?" And now he's really excited. He went from 0 to like 100 in about 2 seconds. He's excited. And then I got to the part I told him, "Listen, what gimmick are you doing now? What name you going under?" He said, "Chris Parks." And he gave me some kind of American something.
Yeah, he was Big Justice or something like that, I think.
Prince Justice.
Prince Justice,
exactly
that's
what
it, yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
I says, "I don't like that Prince Justice." "Why not, man? I've been using it for 3 years." I said, Prince Justice, it doesn't really, I got another name for you. And he says, "Well, what is it?" "I don't even know where I got this name, but," I says, "I'm going to call you Abyss." On his end, silence. I bet he's like this. He's going, "What?" I said, "Abyss. What is that?" I said, "I don't know. That's what we're going to figure out when you get down here. I want you to wear a mask, and I don't want you to wear a full mask. I want you to wear just to cover your face." And he took that gimmick, and he got it over in Puerto Rico. But when I was hearing him watching the show saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," he did the same thing in Puerto Rico. You couldn't talk to him sometimes. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." If somebody was late, he would apologize for them. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I said, "Why are you apologizing for him?" That was a true Abyss emotion right there. So you can imagine, and you saw it, Bruce Pritchard there, and he's saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." It was, they must have known him a lot more than, they figured him out. He's been there. How long has he been there? 3 years now?
Yeah, a few years now, yeah. He's in the game as well for the first time.
And I'm sure that if he's the agent of a match, I'm sure that match is agented right. Because I would used to give him the finishers for his matches in Puerto Rico, and he'd work on them for 2 days before we'd get there. So when he got there, and he would give it back to me, and I would say, "Take this out," and I wouldn't do that, or "Let's put this in." "Oh yeah, you're right. And he would have it. So me watching that and him apologizing, he must have done it up there quite a few times too. But I think he has a love for this business that a lot of guys don't have. but he loves the business and wants to make it the best that what he can possibly make it. And they have a good agent in Abyss.
How hard is it to be an agent? Because as far as I can tell, if you do your job right, you get no thanks whatsoever. If you do your job wrong, or if the wrestlers do something wrong, it's the agent's fault. If the wrestlers do something right, it's probably the wrestlers,
Oh yeah,
who deserve the praise.
The agent gets he gets no credit at all. It's the talent that gets it all. If it's good, if it's bad, the agent gets he takes the blame because the agent going up there. Well, I told him not to do that. Then all the talent has to do is say he approved everything. See, so you're caught between a rock and a hard place there. But I like the way Tony Garea used to do it. It was me and the Blue Brothers, Don and Ron. Mm-hmm. We had a match at some pay-per-view, and it was an 8-minute match with a simple finish. So I sat down and was listening to what they wanted to do. You know how long it took to put an 8-minute match together? Almost 3 hours. 3 hours. Finally, I'm just frustrated with them. I said, excuse the language. I went, God damn, guys, shit, it's an 8-minute match. My God. Let's just go out there. Just do the formula. Make the baby faces shine them up a little bit. Then stop them. Get a couple minutes of heat. Tag. Boom, de boom, de boom. Bam. Let's go. It's got three elements in it, and just follow those elements. And finally, and Tony Garea had absolutely nothing to do with it. And so when he came back in there and he said, all right, run the finish by me. And they went, well, we do this and this and this and this and this. And then the finish. Up, good. Okay. You know how much he had to do with it?
Nothing.
0. So I'm sitting in there, and now that it was a lesson to me that let the guys do it, and then you come in and fix it, and then you go. But the big drawback on that was it was Lex Luger and one of the Hart clan.
No, it was the Bulldog. Yeah, it was the Bulldog.
Davey Boy.
Yeah.
But it was Lex. Lex was all of it. And I'd give it to Lex, and Lex would say, I don't see Lex doing that. Finally, I told him, boy, I'll tell you what, Lex might not do it, but what about your character you're playing? Would he do it? He said, oh, no, he wouldn't do it. I said, well, you're going to do it tonight. Let's go. We've been here 3 hours, guys, and we still don't have it. So we're going to do it. You like it now? He said, oh, yeah, well, I'll do it. That's all it took. Let's do the finish. But some of those guys get stuck on one little bitty thing because they think in their head that it's going to make them look bad, so they don't want to do it.
Can we discuss Bruce Pritchard? Because he came across as such a tool on that episode. I mean, he's talking about, people think just because we're on Netflix, we don't have like a hard out for TV time. It's like Netflix episodes are different time every single week, so obviously there isn't a hard out for starters.
But then there isn't.
But then he's hanging over Abyss the entire time as Abyss is desperately apologising to him, saying, I'm trying to get them moving. He's talking to CM Punk and Seth Rollins. In fact, it's the first WWE Raw on Netflix debut thing, and that was the main event. And Abyss is doing everything he can to speed them up. Take out this, tell him to get going, referee, pick up CM Punk's arm and raise it, so da-da-da-da-da. And I think there's nothing else Abyss can do. And Bruce is staring daggers at Abyss, right? And then afterwards, there's, shaking hands and Abyss is apologising. And Bruce just goes, well, you messed up the finish and you didn't do your job properly, but it's fine. It's fine. And then just walks off.
You didn't pick up on that? Bruce is ribbing him the whole time because he knew how he would react. He'd stand there and Abyss is feeling him over his shoulder. And, oh my God, I'm sorry. He's playing with him. That's what he was doing, and it worked.
Yeah, but isn't the job just hard enough? I mean, you're
It
on,
is
for
hard enough,
millions of people broadcasting.
It's for TV. And Bruce, that's an inside joke. Everybody that saw that knew that, and they knew how Abyss would react. And I bet you, if you'd done a blood pressure check on Abyss, it'd be 170 over 110. Oh my God. So, and I guarantee you, Bruce went off and laughed like there was no tomorrow, like that was the greatest rib ever. And he did it on TV.
I know Paul Regal turned up and, just put Chris Park's mind at ease afterwards. But, just apologizing profusely constantly, just terrified that he's done something wrong.
But that was a shoot. That's exactly the way he acts. And Bruce standing there and looking at him was a reaction at him. How many times did he look at Bruce during that?
1 million.
See, he's trying to read his face. But, and I wish they hadn't have done him that, but that's what he's going to be remembered for. But anyway, he is a really good agent. And if you're not a good agent, Bruce would kick you out the door. You got to be a good agent. Abyss knows what he's doing. That was a rib, and he knows it now. I'm sure. I hope he does. And probably Bruce come up to him and said, "Oh, brother, that's just for TV. That's great." But that's the part you remember, right? Mm-hmm. So you got him at a vulnerable time, and that's the way he is, and it came off great.
Right, we've got so much news to get through in the next 40 odd minutes.
Quit getting me on all these stories so we can get through this thing.
I will just do that.
So I can go and eat sometimes.
All right, Karrion Kross and Sami Zayn. Honestly, they didn't have a good...
What did I tell you about Karrion Kross?
Well, you've never enjoyed him.
Well, he was in the wrong format. That just didn't get over. And I don't know why it took them that long to figure that out.
But it's constantly keep giving him different characters, and none of them are landing on TV. Yet he's doing the Zack Ryder thing off TV, doing his own videos occasionally, and he's coming across really well in his own stuff, and then on the occasional interview as well. And just it's not coming across well on TV. So his most recent iteration of the Karrion Kross character was that he was trying to corrupt other wrestlers into babyface wrestlers into cheating and using weapons and that kind of thing. It started with AJ Styles and it's ended with Sami Zayn, and he's never managed to convert anyone. He's lost every single match pretty much. But SummerSlam Night 1 2025 SummerSlam, Kross and Sami Zayn wrestled again. It only went 8 minutes. Sami was tempted with the metal pipe, but then he threw it away, and then he beat Karrion Kross clean. And that seemed, wow, that was pretty definitive. Mm-hmm. Stevie, of all people, let's say of all people, but Stevie Richards said, "I bet he's on the way out." And I went, "Do you think?" And then within hours of us recording that, because between recording and then broadcasting, in between those, news reports started to surface that Karrion Kross's contract with WWE is up this weekend or next weekend or in the next few days, and it's looking like he hasn't received another offer. So basically, do you think they're just WWE are just cutting ties with Karrion Kross now?
Could be. So they just beat him on the way out. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you one thing, that character's done, but they've seen the other stuff he can do. And I'm glad he did that, because now he's not a one-trick pony. He might be able to somebody else. And it takes a creative member to say, well, he did good in this interview as talking like this, and he did good. Remember what I told you, you could be the greatest technician in the world, which Karrion Kross, he was good, but he wasn't the greatest technician either. But him doing an interview, those outside interviews, he's hoping that a member of creative with a little pull, with a little swag with him, can pitch that idea and see if he can come in as that. But when I first saw him, I said, I don't think that TikTok thing, it never got over. And so you can see something the first time, and really after the second time, if you don't see anything, it's a lost cause. It really.
Yeah, you described it as his version, a solo version of Maximum Male Models at the time. You basically said it was that bad.
It was. It really was. Or it affected me that bad. But see, even if I'd have liked it, where do you go with it? I mean, he was just a heel out there with the good looking valet.
Yeah, did they ever do anything with Scarlett? Really?
Never did.
I don't remember her really speaking very much.
No, they didn't do anything with it. Now you ask yourself the question, why didn't they do anything with it? You know why? Because nobody had an idea. Believe me, ideas are only the ones that are spoken. You got to let the idea out into the air so other people can take it in and maybe make something with it. But if nobody lets it out, there's nothing to talk about. So that's what happened to it. And really, hey, he's a good talker. He really is. You put him in another gimmick, and I think he might work. Let me say this. He had to play with that. He was Karrion Kross. That was his name, right?
Yeah, but before then he was Killer Kross in Impact, and he was really good in Impact. You know, he had the shaved head. He was more demonic and more aggressive and everything. He similarly was in NXT, and then when he got to the main roster in WWE in like 2019, they just monkeyed with the formula, and they gave him what's the opposite of a push? A shove down a well. They sort of just they took Scarlett away from him, I think, initially.
No, they took the push away and gave him the shove.
They did. They got rid of him. I think I don't know if this is the third time they fired him. It's at least the second. At least they didn't renew him. But it's like he definitely had something to offer. He got himself over. He was selling a lot of merchandise the last few months as well. There was a groundswell of support.
Why don't they do that? Why don't they have him out in the parking lot?
Selling merchandise.
No, when the guys are, he's selling merchandise.
Selling t-shirts.
But when the big people from the network, TKO, is coming up, he's handing them his resume. Our Triple H, he's handing him his resume. And you said, remember me? And nobody remembers him. Okay. And then do that about 3 or 4 weeks. Finally, you'll say, give him a job. And I think the people might get behind it and see, hey, if it's not tried, you don't know if it'll work or not. I would keep trying with the guy just to make a TV character of him for the next year.
It sounds like you're trying to make like...
And he could show up one time under the mask doing the same thing. Everybody knows it's him. He's handing out the resume, the same one, but his picture's on this one under the mask and all, and it's badly produced and all this. He just trying to get a job back as a wrestler with WWE.
Killer Kross replied to a Triple H video where fans were chanting, "We want Kross" in the background. This was SummerSlam post-show interview in replacement of the press conference. And Braun Strowman replied, he's thanking the fans, basically, is Karrion Kross for chanting his name, and, they can't ignore it and everything. And Braun Strowman wrote under it, who had just recently been fired, they don't care about the fans, they being WWE, they care about nepotism, ass kisses, and their buddies. Spelled properly for the educated, by the way, in my format, because he spelled it horribly on his tweet.
Okay, when did this happen?
Yesterday.
On social media?
Yeah.
Now, what happened now? Who put under it?
This is Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
He wrote that saying they don't care about anyone but nepotism and ass kisses and buddies. It's the buddy system in WWE once again, which it never wasn't, for the most part, I think.
Yeah, but they had to like Karrion Kross, so they wouldn't have booked him all those times and kept him so long. They have to kind of like him.
Yeah, but
just because his gimmick didn't get over that they chose that for him.
Hey, Triple H brought him back, if you remember, in 2020.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Whatever, like after the COVID things, he was cut during. I'm just looking now. He was cut 2021. He was a COVID cut, and then Triple H brought him back August 5th, 2022. So, and then they just did nothing with him.
This
and then
would
there was
actually,
the final testament and whatnot.
This would actually be a great test run for an aspiring WWE writer. They just assign him Kross. That's all they give it to him and see what ideas he comes up for it. But working in tandem with Kross, I don't want the guy to lose his job. I just knew that damn Killer Kross or whatever thing they had for him didn't work. And I think the girl actually worked against him. See what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at him. I said, yeah, he's got a great looking ballet, but she's not ever involved in anything. She's just there. Did that make any sense?
Only in the fact that that's his real life wife. I thought, well, you know, must be nice to have some company on the road, I guess.
I guess, because I guess you'd be sharing the same room, wouldn't you? So, so you could write that off for both of us, but for both of them. But I don't know. I think there's more to that guy than what we've seen, and I hope he comes out of this okay.
Right, next up, someone potentially leaving from WWE. Now there's somebody attempting a comeback after 5 years in quote-unquote exile. Some promoter, loose terms, is bringing Joey Ryan back, or attempting to anyway, and is currently, and I checked this myself, arguing with people on the Facebook comments that this is a horrible look. It's obviously a horrible look. That I can give you the information as and when you want it. But Joey Ryan is basically somebody who's infamous, dare I say, for doing the penis suplex. You remember this, Dutch? You must do.
I remember something about it now that you bring it up.
He's basically the sleazy looking guy who would have a wrestler grab his, I guess, pinch his trunks where his pee-pee is, and then they would pretend to be suplexed by his pee-pee.
That's a dressing room rib taken to the extreme. That's what I think. Joey Ryan is exactly what he is. He's not going to go above that. He'll get a little bit of notoriety over this, I guess.
Oh yeah, that went viral. That went viral beyond like wrestling circles. That did.
But I don't want to wish anybody any bad luck, and I hope he does well. But I think that viral look is about as far as it's going to go. As far as him getting a job in the business, and he's not even a big guy. So you're going to have some size on you for him to look at you twice or do some unusual moves or something. And he did something else too that was in the news. You remember?
Oh, a few different things. One of them being, once again, quote unquote exile, is that this wasn't exile on his own terms. He was basically, when wrestling had its own version of Me Too in around 2020, when a lot of women claimed, and some guys as well, claimed, you know, some untoward behaviour. Joey Ryan was maybe the most accused. So basically multiple accounts of assaults and creepy behaviour towards women and underage women, some of these accusers were. From Deadspin, 17 different accusations were levied against Ryan of unwanted sexual advances, assault, grooming underage girls, and various other acts of dangerous grossness, as how they put it. And it's kind of not surprising because he's the guy who shoved lollipops in his trunks and then shoved them in his opponent's mouth afterwards. It's kind of like the guy who was hiding in plain sight all this time, Dutch.
Yep. I think we need to write that guy off.
Yeah. So anyway.
Anything like that, if they're accused of that, and how many times you 17?
Yeah, if it was one or two, you could maybe rise above it if you had, you know, a good response kind of thing. But essentially, Joey has said, best I can tell, none of these things are true. But there are 17 separate accusations here, and some of them are incredibly serious. And he's not been charged with any of these offences, alleged offences. But similarly, it's tough to just say, well, none of these things are true, when there's 17 separate people willing to put their names out there to say they've done these things.
What's going to hurt him is they may not be true. That might be accurate. But still, why 17 people are trying to pull a rib on you for some reason? And so any potential employer said, nah, because you're importing trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of doing that, you want to import somebody who can help your company. I don't think he could help you.
So other people have said, come out with, not with specific accusations, but other people have worked with him or booked him and basically said he's one of the worst people to work with, quite frankly, for a number of different reasons as well. He once attempted to come back like in 2022 or something like that, and he was removed from a charity wrestling card when Tony Khan said he would pull all AEW talent if Joey remained, and Joey Ryan was then pulled and hasn't really been heard of since, aside from being fired from Disneyland's Jungle Cruise ride when wrestling fans clued Disneyland bosses in on Ryan's past.
Yep. His past is going to... His resume doesn't read very well. So...
Yeah, but apparently this promoter in Portland, I guess, is absolutely desperate to bring back Joey Ryan for some reason.
In Portland, Oregon?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Portland, Oregon, from what I've heard, it's always been an outlier when they had territories. And I've heard a lot about it, but it was always some weird stuff went on in Portland, I heard. I used to hear stories out of Portland, or some guys who would come from Portland, and they would have some crazy, crazy ass stories. So
fitting place.
Who was the guy who killed his wife?
Billy Jack Haynes.
Billy Jack.
So there you go. The home of Billy Jack Haynes is welcoming Joey Ryan from Exile 5 years on.
Oh yeah. So anyway, that's all territories have a reputation of good territories or bad territories, or stay away from there. And they were true. Like I always heard about Florida. Florida was a good territory, because Eddie Graham was a stand-up guy. And like Charlotte was always good. Jerry Jarrett was always good if you took the Tennessee part out of it, because he used to have a promoter in Tennessee, Nick Goulas, who was known for crappy payoffs, plus his kid, the stupid kid. And I tell you one, Knoxville, Tennessee, with the Fullers, great territory, short trips, and he paid well.
Mm-hmm.
And Texas was good, but things like Portland stood out. Like Kansas City was not good. Stay out of there. I even heard L.A. Stay out of L.A. because they did but San Francisco was good. I always heard that. But anyway, you even had, talk about reputations of the guys, reputations of the territories. He'd kill some guys from ever even calling and wanting to come in.
We shall move on. AEW doesn't want you to know who owns the company, Dutch. Why?
What is that? What is that deal?
I know. So you read this, right? And
I did read it, but they own a lawsuit, right?
Yeah, right. So AEW, Tony Khan, Jon Moxley were being sued by this production guy who Jon Moxley grabbed and shoved. I mean, it's on video. You can't argue with it in that sense. He came out with a lawsuit like 2 years later, I guess. I think the original plan was he was going to hand Jon Moxley a screwdriver, and then Moxley, not in the agreed actions beforehand, grabs the guy and shoves him over. The guy then, sometime afterwards claimed a litany of injuries.
You saw the shove, right?
Oh yeah. We might have even watched it on the show. Yeah,
he got shoved pretty hard, didn't he? It looked like.
It didn't look like that bad of a fall. I mean, he's complaining about everything he can from multiple surgeries from it and stuff. But anyway, that's not the point of this. Whether that shove caused those injuries, etc. What this is AEW sent in a redacted document in their legal response to this lawsuit, blacking out the owners of Beatnik Investments LLC, which are the owners of All Elite Wrestling. Now, the federal judge said he would remand the case back to state court if AEW didn't disclose who the owners of the company were. Now, AEW want the case in federal court. Don't ask me why, I don't know. But they are trying to submit their ownership information under seal so it doesn't get out publicly. So why are AEW, Dutch, and let the conspiracy theories run rampant at this point, because why not? It's a bit of fun. Mm-hmm. Why does AEW not want the world to know who actually owns the company?
Well, I don't know, but now I want to know. I want to know myself. I wonder why. You're better than this than I am.
Well, Tony Khan, Shad Khan, and we know that Warner Brothers Discovery owns a small piece of it, or a big piece of it, we don't know. That's been hinted. Tony Khan has never offered the information of what that percentage is. But if that's the only three, then what's the problem? Why would you want that redacted?
I don't know. Will we be able to find out? We have to be able to find out, don't we?
Well, the thing is that if AEW doesn't want this to go to court, and this might even be a thing where the accusers, the person who was injured allegedly in this altercation, might know this, and then he might demand a bigger payout for it not to go to court. So this could be playing in that guy's hands. As far as, there's some information they don't want leaking, clearly, so why don't I ask for a bigger payout so we don't have to go to court and they don't have to release it? Who else could be an owner, do you think?
I don't know.
Any wrestling journalists?
Nothing pops up. You know, usually when I hear things, I go, ding, 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 little red flags over everything. I can't connect anything here.
I'm looking forward to finding out, if we ever find out that information, what that is. But we'll move on. So, Cody Rhodes, bad blood with AEW. You watched this clip. It was a 73-second clip seen on the Bill Simmons podcast. Cody Rhodes replied to a question, not on the video, but saying that there's clearly bad blood with AEW, but there's also clearly respect and love. Rhodes said that the way he sees it, if he was ever disrespected by WWE, that's one thing. Equating the company to the New York Yankees of baseball, Major League Baseball. But feeling disrespected in AEW, it's something I built with my friends, that we built, feeling disrespected there, I wouldn't stand for it. I think with Brandy, his wife, and both, I'm so blessed to have her, it was one of those where it was like, F it, I did way more here than you think, and you're going to find out the moment I'm out the door. I don't believe in the cold-hearted, backstabby type of revenge. The greatest revenge on earth is success, and I felt like we were sitting on something wonderful, something great, a huge, potentially, ... with what I was doing with the American Nightmare as a bad guy, as a good guy, and something in between. We're sitting on something magic, and if I'm not doing to do it in the house, I literally, with Matt Jackson, Kenny Omega, and Nick Jackson, built with AEW, then buddy, I'm going elsewhere. So, it's been a mystery that we've been speculating on since it happened. Cody Rhodes leaving AEW, there was bad blood in the air. There's various different reasons that fans are speculating why. I'll give you some of those reasons in a minute. What do you make of Cody's words there as far as disrespect? He mentions his wife. He mentions building AEW with Matt and Nick and Kenny Omega. But he doesn't mention Tony Khan in this as well. So there's clearly bad blood with Tony at something. But what do you make of it all?
Well, I'll tell you why he left. He got a good deal with WWE. And that was his plan all along, to go to AEW, get pushed like a big star, which he did, and eventually make his way back to WWE.
Well, he's saying, obviously he co-founded AEW rather than went to it. But he's saying that he was disrespected in some way and that he wouldn't stand for it. So where do you think that... He also said in another interview that it wasn't about money. But at some point, he's had a falling out with somebody over something. What do you think is the most likely candidate?
Well, if it's not about money, that's silly. It really is. If he got disrespected because of a personal issue, that's his problem. And I don't care to even know about it. Because what would mean something to him wouldn't mean nothing to the average fan or the average person listening to this, or to me, or to you. I think he got over there. He got a good deal, and I think this was after Vince. Was this after Vince had left the company
No,
when
it
he
was a
got the deal?
few months. It was a few months before he left the company. So it was Vince's hire.
Okay, so and I think Vince liked him because he liked Dusty, and I think Cody was wanting to come back from WWE, and I think he was talking to Vince, even though he's not supposed to. If they knew that, that's a violation of your contract. But I think he was talking to Vince, and Vince said, "If we can get by this, I think we can bring you back in." So Vince hopped out of it and put the people who needed to be on it. I think he got a deal, and then he left. Correct?
Yeah, he left in 2022. Yeah.
And he left fairly quickly, didn't he?
Yeah, it seemed to happen quite quickly because it was happening at a time where the fans started turning on him, because I think there's a couple of different reasons maybe why. There was some weird storyline stuff that could be stuff with his wife.
I think he wanted to leave. Say if the fans were turning on him, they weren't doing what he wanted to do to protect himself and his position in the business and his wife, Brandy. I think he made a deal and hopped over to WWE. I don't blame him.
Let me give you some rumours that it could be. So you tell me which you think is most likely. Rumour 1, Cody Rhodes wanted AEW to be like Jim Crockett Promotions and book it like Dusty, while Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks wanted it to be more like either PWG, more indie-rific kind of thing, or New Japan or whatever it is. And then, the Elite won out, and we got this sort of weird hybrid of PWG and whatever else it might be. So, there was conflicts of differences of opinion on the presentation style. Another rumour or suggestion: issues with his wife Brandy, and not Cody with his issues with his wife, but maybe issues Brandy was having in the company as far as perception of being a nepotism hire, which of course pretty much everybody there was. I mean, Tony Khan is a nepo baby himself, but like Nick and Matt Jackson's wives got prominent positions in the company. I think Matt Jackson's wife was head of merchandise as well, so big probably high paying as well. Stuff, and Brandy was the chief branding officer of AEW, and she also wanted to become head of the women's division as well, and she hadn't done a huge amount in wrestling at that point, which ultimately got by the way, the women's division got ultimately taken over by Kenny Omega, and anything else. There's also potential issues with Britt Baker maybe with that have been advanced over the years as far as issues go with Brandy Rhodes and Britt Baker. Those are two. Do you want to comment on either of those first, or do you want me to mention the rest?
Well, that leads me to believe that Cody wanted to be the last source if any decisions were made. And even though he was into it with the two brothers and Kenny Omega, he wasn't the top dog. He didn't like it. Not in that company. Mm-hmm. He can put up with it in WWE, but that was a new company, and you can only make so many mistakes in a new company before the people write it off. And I think they're coming back now a little bit. But sometimes wrestling has a little, you can teeter on top for a while, but you got to know what you're teetering on. And when that goes south, the whole company goes south. And I think it wasn't to his liking. Plus, he wanted to leave WWE and come back in a good position, not like the position he was before. I don't blame him. So he didn't like it, but however he moved, he did it in a kayfabe manner. I'm gonna bring that word back. Nobody knew about it, or nobody found out about it, and he got his deal and he moved over.
Yeah, I think it became obvious like a couple of weeks before WrestleMania that it was probably going to be him. He was a mystery opponent for Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 39 or 38, whatever it was. So it was obvious it was him, but only like a week or two earlier, I guess. There's a couple more things. A fallout with Tony Khan. So Cody always talked about creating All Elite Wrestling with Matt and Nick Jackson and Kenny Omega. He never mentions Tony Khan. And then conversely, Tony Khan never credits Cody for anything, and then like the narrative these days makes it sound like Tony Khan has been the genius behind, or whatever you want to call it, behind AEW the entire time. So I guess at some point maybe there's a fallout there because they're not acknowledging each other, or Tony Khan's not acknowledging Cody Rhodes' contributions to forming and holding up AEW in the first year or two.
That sounds familiar. Oh yeah, that could be a reason.
Yeah, there was also, as far as Cody's tenure in AEW, I mean, there was the weird stipulation that Cody lost a match and then he could never challenge for the heavyweight title ever again, which was so bizarre, because why would you do that? Because then all people were thinking was like, oh, when is he going to break the stipulation? Mm-hmm. And then when he never did, people were annoyed with him. And he had the most name recognition, apart from maybe Chris Jericho, in that company. So basically, you are like the fresh face who's going to be, ideally, the world champion. But then you've taken yourself out of that hunt.
You brought up a good name, Chris Jericho. Where is he lately?
He was doing I think he was doing a tour with Fozzy, and he's just taken some time off for a while. Mm-hmm. He's apparently lost quite a bit of weight as of recent, which he needed to.
Yeah, he did. So, but I couldn't add anything to that story. But I think Cody landed in the best spot he could possibly land in.
So something you can add to Dustin Rhodes versus Kyle Fletcher. The match has drawn criticism and praise in equal measure. You watched it. What did you make of it?
What was the build-up to this?
Probably not much. There was All In, where it was a four-way. Adam Cole had vacated the TNT Championship, and then there was a four-way, Dustin Rhodes, Kyle Fletcher, a couple of other people as well, in a four-way, and Dustin Rhodes won. And then a few weeks later, they have like this really bloody hardcore match on the B show, AEW Collision.
I mean, that match, I mean, it surprised me they had so much blood and so much violence in a match that didn't have a big build-up to it. I mean, that looked like something you would see 30 years ago, maybe. Because it was very, very violent, a lot of blood. Of course, Dustin, I think he likes it, to tell you the truth. But it ended up when Dustin had a lot of blood. The other guy, what was his name? Kyle Fletcher?
Yep.
I've heard of him, but that was about it. But he's not different looking. You said he's about 6'3". Mm-hmm. He doesn't look that big on TV. He looks like he's like 5'11", maybe, or no more than 6 foot. I mean, well, TV's hard to tell anyway, but there was nothing outstanding about the guy.
What do you think of the matches? I mean, do you like these types of matches, or do you like these types of matches only when there's a build-up that warrants it?
No, if there's a build-up to warrant it, yes. But just out of the blue, all of a sudden these guys are doing this and every kind of gimmick and this, that, and the other. And why? I mean, I saw it for the first time, but I hadn't even heard of a build-up. Even by reading their results, I hadn't been reading about Kyle Fletcher. So therefore, he's a name that, I mean, you go to an independent show, you'll see matches like this on independent shows for no reason. I think that's what I think the independent shows got away from their entertainment part, and I have seen guys, they're like blood lovers. They're going to do it whether it calls for it or not. They'll just go out there and do it. And you're thinking, why? And they just happen to like it. That's what I think happened in this one. I don't know whose idea this was. Does that sound like a Tony Khan idea?
I guess so, because I think there's like minimal build-up. But, once again, this is the kind of thing that you should culminate over the course of months into a match like this. But there's two things to mention. Christopher Daniels and Hangman Page ended up having a similar bloody match on an episode of Collision, almost out the blue, a few months ago. So it's not like they don't have, even in 2024, 2025, AEW still does this sometimes. They just have an incredibly violent match on the B show for some reason with minimal build-up. Also, Dustin Rhodes has now got a knee injury, and apparently he's not going to be coming back till 2026.
Wait a minute, they said the same thing about Seth Rollins.
They did that. They did
say
that.
They're kayfabing the fans. I've seen some promotions that did that, kayfabe the fans. Sometimes they didn't even put out advertising that they were going
they were going to be there.
That they were going to be there. You know, they kayfabed them that much. And nobody showed up. Damn.
He's going up for double knee surgery, is Dustin Rhodes.
Double?
Mm-hmm.
Well, his knees wasn't bleeding.
Well,
they did put the screwdriver in the knee.
I was going to say, yeah, that's why he went for the screwdriver in the knee, did Carl Fletcher as well.
Anyway, I'm glad they're going to write it off. I don't think you could draw flies with that match.
So, we've got 2 more bits of news, then we will end the show for the week. Right, Hulk Hogan devastated by boos. So, Jimmy Hart discussed how well Hulk Hogan was doing right before he died, saying that he was doing, his health seemed to be better. He seemed to be improving greatly after, some complications with neck surgery, we believe. And then he just had a heart attack and couldn't be resuscitated. Jimmy Hart went on our friends, JBL and Jerry Briscoe's podcast, to discuss Hulk Hogan, and more specifically, in this case, the reaction Hulk Hogan got when in Los Angeles for the debut episode of WWE Raw on Netflix. The Los Angeles crowd booed him mercilessly on that show, and here's the quote from Jimmy. "We were going to Los Angeles, and I kind of told Hulk, I said, wow, blue state, red state. Hulk Hogan had a Trump Vance t-shirt on, which he did some pre-publicity for, right? I'm going, oh my gosh, this isn't going to be good. So we come flying into LA, baby. He's got that Trump Vance t-shirt on. We get out.
Baby?
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 He didn't say poo-poo in this.
No, he didn't say that. He only said that with me.
So he's got the t-shirt on. We go out, man, and we go. All of a sudden, I hear a few of the people like boo, and I'm going, you know what? This doesn't feel right. Hulk Hogan said, Jimmy, don't worry about it. My job, this is Jimmy Hart speaking, my job is to wave the flag, brother. Don't let it hit the ground. But the reaction from the crowd was impossible to ignore. We go out and we kind of get a mixed reaction, which is a lie because you got booed 100%. Not a lie, but you know what I mean. And you know this, you can have 500 people cheering you and one person booing you, but I'll be damned if that one person booing doesn't end up outshining 500 cheering. I don't know why he's saying 1 to 500 boos. No, it was 100% boos. It was a little more boos than anything, but that devastated him, Jimmy Hart revealed. And we got in the back, and he said, what do you think happened? And I said, Hulk, it's simple, blue state, red state, boom. I said, I mean, really, I'm okay with it. Hulk Hogan goes, but what do you think? And I said, I'm okay. I felt like I was managing the Hart Foundation against the British Bulldogs or the Killer Bees or somebody. But that bothered him because of that. Hart continued, I said, well, surely people are going to realise what that was for. Then the next week we're in Texas and it's all cheers. They weren't in Texas the next week unless they were doing some other engagement. But that always bothered him. It sure did. So Hulk Hogan was really, really bothered by the reaction on that first Raw on Netflix. Why do you think it happened?
Well, I think Jimmy's got the right idea. I think they just didn't want Hulk out there at that particular time. That's the only thing I think they were just booing just because they wanted to. I don't know if they even had a reason. You know, a lot of those fans don't even, everybody's booing, so they're going to boo too, I guess. I don't know. I can't read into the fans' mind why they would boo him. But unless, they've been following him on social media, and we've even made a joke at all the exaggerations that Hulk would make about this and this and this and 400 days a year and all this kind of stuff. And I think, instead of cheering him, they would boo him because they knew what kind of reaction the WWE wanted when Hulk showed up. And they said, well, we'll just go against that. They're bad little boys is what they are. They're not going to do what the teacher wants, and they'll do what they want to do. Therefore, that's not the reaction that they're going to give.
CM Punk mentioned Hulk Hogan the week after in a promo, and he said, "I'm going to throw Hulk Hogan's dusty old ass out the Royal Rumble if he dares get into it." And that was in Texas, and that also got a huge cheer, which I just think, over the years, Hulk Hogan, with the racism thing and nailing his political colours, so publicly to the mast, and then once again just being so uncredible for years up to it. I think at some point there's just something's got to give, and fans just get sick of it. It's like, one, they don't like politics being brought into wrestling for the most part, anyway. But then, Hulk Hogan did trample all over his own credibility time and time again when he didn't need to. And at some point, people don't find it charming anymore, and people just get tired of it. And one more thing I'll tell you. The crowd at that in LA and yeah, it was a blue state as well, so that definitely, I think, played a part in it. But the crowd had already had enough of pandering to the Netflix overlords. Triple H had done a promo pandering. The Rock had done a pandering promo. John Cena had done a pandering promo. Then Hulk Hogan comes out in a "Please Buy My Beer" t-shirt, talking about how great Netflix is and how great his beer is. And the fans don't want to hear it. If you're going to be out there, you just need to have some reason other than that you were paid to be there to promote a product.
Well, I think you hit it, and we don't know why they did.
I do. I was like, oh, God, this is terrible. And it's like, yeah, I just thought he was in full corporate chill mode then.
I would kind of expect Hogan to get booed in some of these places, because remember the last time they saw him, he was on WCW and he was a big heel with Nash.
According to him, and that's such a lie as well, because I was like, oh yeah, the last time, that's what he said. He claimed, the last time I was in LA was with the NWO, brother. It was like, no, you weren't. You've been in LA tons of times since on WWE shows, and you were cheered before the 2014, leaks. Or whatever it was, the audio leaks.
So, but anyway, I don't know. He's passed on into the great ring in the sky now. So I'll withhold some of my comments.
Fair enough. All
out
right,
of
then.
respect.
Okay, well, this guy's still living, so you can say whatever you want about him. Vince McMahon nearly kills woman, causes multi-car pile-up. So, former WWE CEO Vince McMahon was charged with reckless driving in Connecticut after he was involved in a 3-car accident that severely damaged his vehicle. This was on the Merritt Parkway in Westport, and apparently that is not an easy road to navigate. It's quite, thin and, narrow and that kind of thing. It's got curbs or whatever either side. Anyway, on the morning of July 24th, according to a state police report obtained by USA Today, according to the report, Vince McMahon was driving northbound on Route 15 when he collided with the rear of another vehicle and then crashed into a median wooden beamed guardrail. Another vehicle was driving southbound on the route and collided with the debris projected over the centre median from McMahon's vehicle. No injuries were reported in the crash. There were no passengers. Actually, that might not be true. Anyway, all vehicle airbags went off. So that pretty much saves lives, if not, serious injury. McMahon was issued with a misdemeanor for reckless driving and following too closely, resulting in the accident. He was released on $500 bond and was ordered to appear in Stamford Superior Court on August 26th. Now, the woman who Vince McMahon hit then claimed that she had neck pain after the fact. And, I mean, you're always going to say that. He's a billionaire as well. You might as well say it, but, it could well be true. But apparently this dude, Vince McMahon, was driving around claiming at around 80 to 90 miles an hour, weaving in and out of traffic. It's like, Vince McMahon is going to be 80 in a few weeks. Why is he still a madman?
He's Vince, is all I can say. See, Vince never felt he was human anyway. And that was actually the origination I've heard of Undertaker. Because he thought he was above dying. He didn't think he would ever die. I've heard that story a number of times about him. But that what the Undertaker character was built around. Because Mark said he sat around for a month just waiting for Vince to make up an idea for him to come in to. And he came up with the Undertaker. And as we can see, the way they did it was a long-lasting character that's still over today and will always be. But he made that character up for Mark, and it fit Mark. It fit Mark's style, and Mark defined it, his work, but Vince created it.
Why? I don't know. I just like, is he just on just lots of uppers or something like that, where he's just... I've heard several different accounts where he is a terrible driver. Have you ever seen him tearing in and out of an arena?
Cornette said he was a different driver, and so did Jim Ross. So they wouldn't drive with him, wouldn't ride with him. So
they did say that. They said, Jim Cornette said, the long list of people who I refused to ride with, Vince included me and Jim Ross, who told him I love my children and I want to see them again.
Mm-hmm. Well, whenever I saw Vince, he always had a driver.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So you never saw him drive himself?
No, never. Even up around Connecticut, I never saw him drive himself.
Did you ever
because him driving himself, he'd have to go and rent the car and list himself as the driver and everything.
Okay, what have you dropped? There's a pen tumbled.
Hang on a minute. I gotta go. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Then I'll tell you what. I'm going to shut down the podcast anyway. So, right, Dutch has got to go. He's got to be back in 5 minutes. But this is a good time for me to shut the podcast down. Everybody, thank you for watching. We will be back again on Sunday for Ask Dutch Anything. Dutch, we the people.
We the people.